Think about the last time you stood at the edge of the ocean, watching the waves roll in. That vast, blue expanse holds more than just water. It's the world's greatest museum, hiding stories we've only just begun to uncover. For centuries, the deep has guarded some of humanity's most fascinating secrets, preserving mysteries that fire our imagination and challenge everything we think we know about history. Today, we're diving beneath the surface to explore 25 of the most enigmatic relics ever found in the ocean's depths. These aren't just forgotten objects, they're pieces of a grand, unsolved puzzle that spans millennia. Imagine stumbling upon an ancient shipwreck, its wooden bones resting silently in the dark, holding cargo that hasn't seen the light of day for thousands of years. Or picture discovering an artifact so strange, so out of place, that it seems to defy explanation, a relic that hints at lost civilizations, advanced technologies, or encounters we can scarcely comprehend. From the Mediterranean to the Pacific, from sunken cities to isolated fragments that whisper of forgotten journeys, each of these underwater treasures has a story to tell. They've captivated historians, archaeologists, and adventurers alike, not just because of their age, but because of the profound questions they raise. What if I told you that some of these discoveries suggest there's still so much we don't understand about our past, that the ocean floor might be hiding clues that rewrite history as we know it? This journey isn't just about listing interesting finds. It's an invitation to explore the unexplained, to wonder about the ambitions and mysteries of those who came before us. So settle in, open your mind to the possibilities, and join us as we venture into the deep blue, where every discovery pulls us deeper into the unknown, and where the line between history and legend begins to blur. Our journey into the deep begins with a discovery so incredible, it single-handedly rewrote our understanding of ancient technological prowess. In the year 1901, sponge divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck near the tiny Greek island of Antikythera made a find that seemed utterly out of place. Among the typical treasures of statues and pottery, they recovered a heavily corroded lump of bronze and wood, its secrets hidden beneath centuries of undersea incrustation. For decades, it was simply a museum curiosity, an oddity whose true nature was a complete mystery. It wasn't until the latter half of the 20th century that advanced imaging technology, like X-rays and gamma rays, finally revealed the breathtaking truth hidden inside that lump of rock and corrosion. What they found was nothing short of an ancient mechanical marvel, a complex clockwork assembly of at least 30 precise interlocking bronze gears, housed in a wooden frame no larger than a shoebox. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a device now widely recognized as the world's very first known analog computer. Scientific analysis dates its construction to sometime between 250 and 100 BCE, a time when much of the world was still navigating by the stars with far simpler tools. But this wasn't just a simple calculator. It was a sophisticated model of the known cosmos, operated by a hand crank that turned the intricate gear trains. The genius of this mechanism lies in its purpose. By turning that crank, an ancient user could accurately predict the movement of the sun and the moon, the phases of the lunar cycle, and even the dates of upcoming solar and lunar eclipses. Some researchers believe it could also track the positions of the 5 planets known to the Greeks at the time, and it even accounted for the irregular orbit of the moon with a clever pin and slot device that simulated celestial mechanics with astonishing accuracy. It was, in essence, a portable, mechanical representation of the heavens, a device that could calculate celestial events decades into the future. This level of sophistication wouldn't be seen again in Europe until the development of complex astronomical clocks in the 14th century, over 1,000 years later. And this is where the true mystery takes hold. We have no other artifacts like it from the ancient world. No historical text from that era describes such a complex geared device. Its existence seems to have been a complete anomaly, a flash of technological brilliance that then vanished from history without a trace. So who built it? The leading theory points to the legendary inventor Archimedes or his followers in Syracuse, as ancient texts vaguely mention him creating a planetarium-like device. But we simply do not know for certain. Its presence on a Roman ship also suggests it might have been plunder, a priceless intellectual treasure being transported to Rome only to be lost at sea. The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to ask profound and humbling questions about the past. If the ancient Greeks could conceive of and build something this mechanically advanced, what other technological wonders have been lost to history, either decaying on the ocean floor or simply turning to dust? This one device shatters our preconceived notions of a linear progression of technology, proving that brilliance can flare up, be forgotten, and await rediscovery centuries later. It stands as a permanent reminder that the ocean's depths may still be hiding other relics just as revolutionary, waiting for the right moment to surface and challenge our view of history once again. Just as the Antikythera Mechanism reveals a flash of advanced technology, our next discovery paints a breathtaking portrait of an interconnected ancient world that was far more globalized than we ever imagined. While exploring the turquoise waters off the coast of Uluburun, Turkey, in 1982, a lone sponge diver named Mehmet Sakir surfaced with an extraordinary report. He had spotted strange, flat, greenish metal biscuits with handles scattered across the seafloor like forgotten dinner plates. These were, in fact, copper ingots, and his accidental discovery led to one of the most significant underwater archaeological excavations in history, the Uluburun shipwreck. This wasn't just an old, sunken vessel. It was a perfectly preserved time capsule from the late Bronze Age, dating back to around 1300 BC. Over 11 consecutive diving seasons, archaeologists meticulously recovered its cargo, revealing a floating treasury of unimaginable wealth and diversity. The ship itself was constructed from cedar planks, a design typical of the Canaanite region, and it was absolutely massive for its time, capable of carrying over 20 tons of precious goods. But the real story isn't the ship, it's what it was carrying. The inventory reads like a manifest from an ancient United Nations. There were 10 tons of Cypriot copper ingots, shaped like ox hides for easy transport, alongside a ton of shiny tin ingots from a distant, still unknown source. When combined, this copper and tin would have produced enough bronze to equip an entire army with weapons and armor, but the cargo didn't stop there. The hold was packed with beautiful Canaanite gold jewelry, including a stunning scarab bearing the name of the Egyptian queen Nefertiti. There were gleaming glass ingots from Mesopotamia, vibrant amber beads from the Baltic Sea, and exquisite ivory containers, some still holding their original cosmetic content. They even found African ebony wood and ostrich eggshells, items that had traveled thousands of miles to be on that ship. This incredible variety of goods, all originating from at least 7 different major cultures, completely upended our understanding of Bronze Age economics. Historians had long suspected that kingdoms like Egypt, Mycenae, and the Hittites had some contact, but the Uluburun wreck proved they were nodes in a vast, complex, and surprisingly sophisticated international trade network. This ship was a direct link, a physical connection between the royal courts of pharaohs, the palaces of Mycenaean kings, and the merchant ports of the Levant. It suggests a world where diplomacy and commerce were deeply intertwined, where gifts and goods flowed freely across the Mediterranean, fostering a level of cultural exchange we are only beginning to appreciate. The personal items found on board add an even deeper human layer to this story. Among the valuables were the crew's simple possessions, bronze tools, fishing weights, stone anchors, and a collection of wooden writing boards that would have once held wax for messages, now long since dissolved by the sea. The most poignant personal artifact was a beautiful gold chalice, likely belonging to the ship's captain or a wealthy merchant on board. Who were these people? Were they traders, diplomats, or royal emissaries, their identities are lost, but their cargo speaks volumes about their mission. They were the backbone of a globalized system, braving the open sea to connect empires. The Uluburan shipwreck forces us to completely rethink the Bronze Age. It wasn't a period of isolated, warring kingdoms, but rather a vibrant, interconnected web of economies and cultures that depended on each other for luxury goods and crucial raw materials. The sinking of this one vessel was a catastrophic economic event in its day, a loss that would have resonated in royal courts across 3 continents. Its rediscovery gives us an unparalleled window into that lost world, proving that the drive for connection and commerce is a powerful, ancient human impulse, one that continues to shape our world today. Leaving the clear-cut trade routes of the Bronze Age, our search for enigmatic relics now takes us to a place where the line between natural wonder and artificial creation becomes profoundly blurred. Off the westernmost tip of Japan, near the remote island of Yonaguni, the ocean guards a secret that has divided scientists and captivated dreamers since its discovery in 1986. Here, resting just 5 to 30 meters beneath the waves, lies a colossal structure known as the Yonaguni Monument. To look upon it is to feel a sense of awe and instant recognition. Its sharp, angular form seems so deliberately placed that it's almost impossible to believe they were shaped by chance alone. The monument is truly massive, measuring roughly 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, and 25 meters tall, a submerged pyramid of stone that dwarfs any single diver exploring its features. Its most striking characteristics are the incredibly sharp 90-degree angles that define its corners, the series of perfectly level, flat terraces that step down its sides, and the long, straight walls that run for meters without a single waver. One prominent feature looks unmistakably like a wide, descending staircase, while another resembles a processional road leading to a central platform. There are even what appear to be carved openings, gateways, and 2 massive rectangular pillars near the top of the structure. The sheer regularity and geometric precision of these elements scream of intelligent design. This is where the great debate begins, a fascinating clash between geology and archaeology. On one side, many prominent geologists argue that the entire formation is a spectacular example of natural sandstone weathering. The rock in this region is known for its well-defined horizontal bedding planes and vertical joints, which can fracture along straight lines when exposed to powerful tectonic forces. They point out that the area is highly seismically active and that the immense pressures of earthquakes could have split the stone into these remarkably regular blocks and platforms. In this view, the Yonaguni Monument is a masterpiece of nature, an incredible geological fluke that merely tricks our pattern-seeking brains into seeing human handiwork. But the other side of the argument, championed by researchers like the late Professor Masaaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus, presents compelling counterpoints. If this is all natural, they ask, then how do we explain the presence of what looks like detailed tool marks on certain surfaces? Or the discovery of what appear to be smaller, carved stones resembling animal statues and human faces in the immediate vicinity? Perhaps the most difficult feature to dismiss is a precise, circular depression on the top terrace that aligns perfectly with the solstices, suggesting a potential astronomical purpose. Professor Kimura spent decades surveying the site and concluded that it was indeed a man-made complex, possibly a ceremonial center or a fortress, that was submerged by rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age around 10,000 years ago. And that timeline is the most mind-bending aspect of this entire mystery. If the Yonaguni Monument is artificial, it would completely upend our understanding of human history in the Pacific. It would mean that an advanced, organized society capable of monumental stone architecture existed in this region millennia before the traditionally accepted dates for the rise of such complex cultures. This would place its construction concurrent with, or even before, the development of the earliest known settlements in Mesopotamia, making it a potential candidate for a lost chapter of human civilization, a Pacific counterpart to legends like Atlantis or Mu. Whether a miraculous work of nature or a sunken relic of a forgotten world, the Yonaguni Monument serves as a powerful reminder of how much of our planet's history remains hidden beneath the waves. It challenges us to keep an open mind, to question our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient peoples, and to wonder what other breathtaking structures might be waiting on the ocean floor, silently daring us to unravel their secrets. Transitioning from the monolithic mystery of Yonaguni, we now turn to a sunken city whose discovery confirmed legends long thought to be mere myths. For over 1,200 years, the great port city of Heracleion existed only in a handful of ancient texts, mentioned by historians like Herodotus as a fabulously wealthy gateway to Egypt, a place where Helen of Troy herself was said to have visited. Most scholars believed it was just a story, a legend lost to time until the year 2000. That's when French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudiot, after years of painstaking survey work in Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria, made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the archaeological world. His team's dredgers brought up not just sand, but a colossal stone hand. They had found the first piece of a giant statue, and with it, the lost city of Thonis Heracleion. As the silt settled and visibility improved, an entire underwater metropolis began to emerge from the shadows. The scale of the find was almost beyond comprehension. Here were the remains of a grand temple dedicated to the god Amun-Jereb, its massive stone blocks still lying where they had fallen. Scattered around it were the most breathtaking artifacts, a towering 5-meter-tall red granite statue of a pharaoh, believed to be Ptolemy II, a majestic head of the god Hapi, the divine personification of the Nile flood, and a beautifully crafted sculpture of a queen from the Ptolemaic dynasty. But it wasn't just the statues. The seafloor was littered with the timeless debris of daily life: gold coins, delicate jewelry, inscribed stone tablets, and over 70 ancient shipwrecks, all preserved in a time capsule of clay and sand. The city's importance cannot be overstated. Founded around the 8th century BCE, Heracleion served as Egypt's mandatory hub for all Mediterranean trade centuries before Alexandria even existed. Every single foreign ship, particularly those from Greece, was required to dock here first. Their cargo would be inspected, and taxes would be paid to the temple officials before goods could travel up the Nile. The discovery of stone slabs known as the Decree of Size, inscribed in both ancient Egyptian and Greek, proved this function. They laid out the rules of trade and taxation, a clear record of the bureaucratic machinery that operated from this very spot. This was the customs house of ancient Egypt, the bustling, vibrant heart of commerce and cultural exchange between two great civilizations. Its religious significance was equally profound. The main temple was not just a local place of worship, it was crucial to the legitimacy of the pharaohs. Ancient texts suggest that every new pharaoh would travel to Heracleion to receive their divine title from the chief priest of Amun, a ceremony that essentially certified their right to rule as a living god. The discovery of countless ritualistic offerings, including bronze statuettes and ceremonial barges, paints a vivid picture of a city steeped in spiritual power and pageantry. This was where the human and the divine met, where politics and religion intertwined on the waterfront. So what happened to this thriving, powerful city? The evidence points to a perfect storm of natural disasters. Heracleion was built on a fragile foundation of clay and sand, which was already susceptible to compaction and liquefaction. Geologists believe a series of powerful earthquakes, followed by a tsunami, likely struck the region around the 1st or 2nd century CE. This catastrophic event would have violently shaken the ground, causing the water-saturated clay to instantly lose its strength and behave like a liquid. The heavy stone temples and statues literally sank into the slurry, disappearing beneath the waves in a relatively short period. Slowly, over the subsequent centuries, sea levels rose and the memory of the city's exact location faded into legend. The rediscovery of Heracleion is a testament to the fact that sometimes the wildest legends are rooted in truth. It provides an unparalleled, frozen snapshot of life at the confluence of Egyptian and Greek cultures, showing us not just how they traded, but how they worshipped and governed together. It transforms our understanding of the ancient Mediterranean from a map of separate entities into a connected world of shared ports and intertwined destinies, a world that, until recently, we could only read about. Now we can dive right into its sunken streets. Shifting from the sunken cities and ancient temples we've just explored, our next enigmatic relic plunges us into a much more recent and far more polarizing mystery, one that plays out not in the warm Mediterranean, but in the cold, dark depths of the Baltic Sea. In the summer of 2011, a Swedish ocean exploration team named Ocean X was using sonar to search for old shipwrecks between Sweden and Finland. Their routine survey took a shocking turn when their sonar screens displayed something utterly bizarre. Resting on the flat seafloor nearly 90 meters below the surface was a massive, almost perfectly circular object measuring roughly 60 meters across. But its shape was what caused immediate disbelief. With a thick central pillar and a distinct trailing skid mark behind it, the formation looked uncannily like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. The team immediately knew they had found something that defied any simple explanation. The initial sonar images were puzzling enough, but subsequent scans only deepened the mystery. Higher resolution multi-beam sonar revealed what appeared to be intricate, almost architectural features on the object's surface. There were sharp, 90-degree angles, long straight lines that looked like corridors, and what some described as a series of stair steps leading to a dark opening. The object seemed to be raised from the seabed on a large pillar, and behind it was a long, deep track, as if it had skidded or dragged across the mud before coming to its final resting place. Perhaps the strangest detail of all was the object's effect on technology. The team reported that certain electronic equipment, particularly their satellite phone and a new high-definition sonar system, would inexplicably shut down whenever they passed directly over the object, only to reactivate once they had moved away. This combination of a bizarre shape and strange electromagnetic effects ignited a firestorm of speculation. Almost immediately, theories erupted, ranging from the mundane to the fantastic. On the more conventional end, some geologists proposed that the anomaly could be a rare but entirely natural glacial formation. During the last ice age, massive glaciers could have deposited a large glacial erratic, a boulder carried far from its origin, and then sculpted the surrounding seabed as they retreated, creating the illusion of structure. Others suggested it might be a massive concretion, where minerals in the sediment naturally cement around a core over millennia, forming odd shapes. Yet for many, these geological explanations failed to account for all the evidence. The object's seemingly geometric features and its reported electrical interference led others to propose it was a man-made secret from a more recent history. One prominent theory posits it could be a top-secret World War II anti-submarine device, perhaps a massive sonar jammer or a mine emplacement constructed by Nazi Germany to protect their Baltic naval operations. The Baltic was a fiercely contested theater during the war, and it's not beyond reason that a large, strange-looking piece of forgotten war machinery could be resting on the bottom. Then, of course, there are the more extraordinary theories. The object's circular, saucer-like shape and its apparent ability to disrupt electronics are tropes straight out of UFO lore, leading many to passionately argue that it is a crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft that has been lying on the seabed for centuries or even millennia. Proponents of this idea point to samples retrieved from the site that divers claimed showed metals like limonite and goethite not naturally found in combination, though these claims remain heavily disputed by the scientific community. The true nature of the Baltic Sea Anomaly remains one of the ocean's greatest modern puzzles. Despite multiple expeditions, including one where divers brought back blurry photographs and video of a rock-like surface, no definitive evidence has been produced to settle the debate. The high cost and technical difficulty of mounting a proper archaeological expedition to such a depth have left the mystery unresolved. It serves as a perfect example of how the ocean continues to guard its secrets, presenting us with enigmatic finds that ignite our imagination and challenge our need for easy answers. It is a reminder that even in our modern age of advanced technology, the deep blue can still offer up a mystery that captivates the world and dares us to wonder what might be lurking in the unexplored darkness. Leaving behind the high-tech mystery of the Baltic, we now journey to the warm, turquoise waters of the Bahamas, where a different kind of enigmatic structure waits beneath the waves, one that seems to offer a tangible path into legend itself. In 1968, while flying over the shallow banks off the coast of Bimini, a pilot and amateur archaeologist named J. Manson Valentine spotted something extraordinary on the seabed below. What he saw were hundreds of massive, rectangular limestone blocks laid out in two parallel rows, running in a perfectly straight line for nearly half a mile. This was the Bimini Road, and its discovery sent a jolt of excitement through the world of alternative history, appearing to offer the first real, physical evidence for a story many thought was pure myth. To see the Bimini Road is to be immediately struck by its apparent artificiality. The blocks are enormous, some weighing several tons, and they are shaped into clean, geometric forms, rectangles, polygons, and perfect squares that fit together with an almost intentional precision. They form a clear, J-shaped hook at one end, further suggesting a designed pattern rather than a random scattering of stones. For those who believe, it doesn't look like a road so much as the foundation of a massive wall, or perhaps a great submerged pier that once welcomed ancient ships to a long-lost port. The sheer order and linearity of the formation feels profoundly out of place in the natural, chaotic beauty of the ocean floor, making it incredibly difficult to dismiss as just another rock formation. This discovery seemed to align almost miraculously with a famous prediction. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Plato wrote about a vast, advanced civilization called Atlantis that sank beneath the ocean in a single day and night of cataclysm. While many considered this a moral fable, the psychic Edgar Cayce had made a startlingly specific prophecy in the 1930s. He claimed that a portion of the lost city of Atlantis would rise again near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. The timing of the road's discovery, right in the heart of Cayce's predicted window, was seen by his followers as undeniable confirmation. They believed they were looking at a piece of the fabled Atlantis, a remnant of a metropolis that had collapsed into the sea millennia ago. Mainstream science, however, has a very different and far less mystical explanation. Geologists who have studied the site argue that what we are seeing is a spectacular example of a natural geological process known as beach rock formation. Beach rock is a type of sandstone that forms when sand, shell fragments, and other coastal debris become cemented together by calcium carbonate, which precipitates from seawater. This process occurs naturally in the intertidal zone. Over centuries, as sea levels slowly rise, these solid sheets of beach rock can become submerged. Eventually, the relentless force of waves and currents can break the sheet along its natural fault lines, causing it to fracture into large, remarkably regular blocks that often settle into straight lines or geometric patterns. In this view, the Bimini Road is a beautiful geological accident, a quirk of nature that our brains, hardwired to see patterns, interpret as something man-made. Scientific analysis seems to support this natural origin. Core samples taken from the blocks show that the limestone is consistent with other naturally occurring beach rock in the region. Crucially, carbon dating of the cement binding the stones together places its formation at around 2,000 to 3,000 years old. This timeline is far too recent to be connected to any hypothetical advanced civilization like Atlantis, which Plato placed over 11,000 years in the past. If the blocks only formed a few thousand years ago, they couldn't be the ruins of a city that sank millennia before they even existed. Yet, even with this compelling scientific data, the mystery hasn't been completely put to rest. Proponents of the artificial origin theory point to other, smaller stone circles and formations found nearby that they argue are clearly man-made. They also question whether the natural fracture theory can adequately explain the sheer size, perfect 90-degree angles, and the precise arrangement of the largest blocks. For them, the Bimini Road remains an archaeological site that deserves more investigation, a puzzle that hasn't been fully solved. Whether a breathtaking natural wonder or a relic of a forgotten past, the Bimini Road continues to captivate anyone who swims its length. It represents something powerful, our deep, enduring desire to find proof of the legends that capture our imagination. It challenges us to look at the world and ask if what we see is merely nature, or if it's a message from a history we have yet to fully understand. It stands as a testament to the fact that sometimes the most compelling mysteries aren't about finding a definitive answer, but about the journey of questioning itself. While the Bimini Road invites us to question the line between legend and geology, our next discovery presents a far more definitive case where ancient folklore was proven to be historical fact in the most dramatic way imaginable. For centuries, the coastal town of Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu, India, held onto a captivating local legend. It was said that the famous Shore Temple, a magnificent 7th century structure carved from granite and overlooking the Bay of Bengal, was not always alone. The lore told of 6 other equally splendid pagodas, a glorious complex of 7 temples that together formed a massive port city. As the story goes, the gods grew envious of the city's beauty and unleashed a great cataclysm, swallowing 6 of the 7 temples beneath the waves in a single night, leaving only the Shore Temple as a solitary reminder of what was lost. For generations, historians largely dismissed this as a poetic myth, a symbolic tale not meant to be taken literally. That is, until the ocean itself decided to reveal the truth. The catalyst for this incredible confirmation was one of the most devastating natural disasters in modern history, the Indian Ocean tsunami of December 24, 2004. As the colossal waves receded from the coast, they pulled vast quantities of sand out to sea with them. In doing so, they temporarily stripped away the seabed's blanket, exposing something astonishing. Local fishermen and residents reported seeing a long, straight row of large stone blocks and what appeared to be the outlines of walls and sculptures on the newly revealed ocean floor, just a few hundred meters from the Shore Temple. It was a fleeting glimpse, but it was enough. The tsunami's terrible tragedy had inadvertently provided a crucial clue, offering dramatic, tangible evidence that the ancient legends were rooted in reality. Spurred by these reports, the Archaeological Survey of India, in partnership with international teams, launched a major underwater investigation. What they found over subsequent diving seasons was nothing short of groundbreaking. The seabed was scattered with the undeniable remains of a submerged civilization. Divers documented extensive man-made structures, including a long, horseshoe-shaped wall, the foundation of a large temple complex, and several large stone blocks that had clearly been quarried and shaped by human hands. They discovered fallen columns, plinths that would have supported grand structures, and over 100 other architectural pieces, all scattered across a wide area. Perhaps most evocative were the finds that breathed life into the site. A complete lion sculpture, an emblem of the Pallava dynasty, and a half-completed stone elephant, as if the artisan had abruptly left their work millennia ago. Scientific analysis dated these submerged ruins to the same period as the Standing Shore Temple complex, the 7th century CE, during the peak of the Pallava dynasty's rule. This was not a mythical city from a forgotten age. It was a historical one, a bustling port and religious center that had been a key node in a vast Indian Ocean trade network. The discoveries proved that Mahabalipuram was far larger and more significant than previously believed, with a substantial portion of its architecture extending directly into the sea. The 6 submerged pagodas of legend likely refer to these extensive structural complexes and shrines that lined the ancient coastline. The confirmation of the Mahabalipuram legend is a profound moment for archaeology and for the power of oral history. It demonstrates that stories passed down through countless generations can preserve accurate historical memories for over 1,200 years. These weren't just tales, they were a form of historical record, a resilient thread of cultural memory that survived long after the physical evidence had vanished from sight. It forces a reassessment of other local legends around the world that speak of sunken lands and lost cities, suggesting we should listen to these ancient voices with a more open and respectful mind. Furthermore, the findings have completely rewritten our understanding of Indian maritime architecture. They reveal a Pallava dynasty that was exceptionally adept at engineering and constructing massive stone structures in a dynamic coastal environment, mastering techniques to build on the very edge of the sea. The submersion of these grand buildings is now attributed not to a sudden divine wrath, but to the slow, relentless rise in sea levels that has occurred since the end of the last ice age, a process that gradually encroached upon the land and eventually claimed these coastal monuments. The waters off Mahabalipuram stand as a powerful reminder that our planet's coastline has always been a shifting frontier, and that the ocean continues to guard the secrets of our shared human past, sometimes revealing them in the most unexpected ways. While the legend of Mahabalipuram proved that oral history can preserve truth for millennia, our next discovery takes us to a place where history requires no legend at all. It is laid out before our eyes with breathtaking, undisturbed clarity. Just off the coast of southern Laconia in Greece, beneath the crystal-clear, shallow waters of the Mediterranean, lies a site that feels almost too complete to be real. This is not a scatter of artifacts or a lone monument, but an entire city frozen in time. Welcome to Pavlopetri, the oldest submerged city ever discovered in the world, a perfectly preserved snapshot of daily life from a time when most of humanity was just beginning to grasp the concept of civilization itself. What makes Pavlopetri so extraordinary is not just its age, which dates back an astonishing 5,000 years, but its incredible state of preservation. Unlike other ruins that have been jumbled by earthquakes or scattered by storms, the city's entire urban plan remains perfectly visible on the sandy seabed. From the surface, you can look down and trace the ghostly outlines of a complete community. A network of stone streets, some wide enough for carts to pass, crisscrosses the site, dividing it into distinct neighborhoods. The foundations of buildings, many with their walls still partially standing, define courtyards and rooms where families once lived and worked. Archaeologists have even mapped out rock-cut tombs, the final resting places of the city's earliest inhabitants, all sitting silently on the ocean floor. It is a complete sunken time capsule. The city's layout reveals a level of sophistication that has forced historians to completely rethink the capabilities of early Bronze Age societies. This was not a haphazard village, it was a carefully planned urban center. The buildings were arranged in organized blocks, and the discovery of what appear to be larger public structures or central buildings suggests a degree of social organization and possibly even a form of central administration that we didn't believe existed this early. Perhaps the most surprising features are the clear signs of two-story buildings. The foundation walls are substantial enough to have supported an upper floor, implying a desire to maximize space and a sophisticated understanding of structural engineering for the era. Even more impressive is the evidence of a complex water management system. The city's planners didn't just rely on the sea, they managed it. archaeologists have identified channels and pipes that would have been used for fresh water supply and drainage, a crucial innovation for any permanent settlement. This shows a proactive approach to public health and urban living that we typically associate with much later periods, like the Roman Empire. The people of Pavlopetri weren't just surviving, they were engineering their environment for comfort and efficiency, creating a standard of living that was remarkably advanced for its time. Pavlopetri's location also speaks volumes about its purpose. Nestled in a protected bay, it was perfectly positioned as a hub for maritime trade. The sheer number of large storage jars or pithoi found on the site indicates that this was a place that produced, stored, and traded goods on a significant scale. Its merchants would have been part of a vast network connecting the Greek mainland with the Cycladic Islands and the wider Aegean world. The city's prosperity literally sank with it, leaving behind a cargo of cultural and commercial clues that are helping us rewrite the history of Mediterranean trade routes, pushing their origins much further back into the past than we ever imagined. The reason for its submersion is the same slow, powerful process that has claimed so many coastal sites: sea level rise. Unlike cities destroyed by a sudden cataclysm, Pavlopetri was gradually abandoned as the waters crept higher over centuries, eventually swallowing it completely around 1000 BC. This gentle, almost peaceful drowning is what allowed its structures to remain so intact, untouched by later builders or the ravages of war. Its silent streets and empty rooms offer us an unparalleled, untouched window into the Bronze Age, a chance to walk through a 5,000-year-old city and understand, in a very direct way, the lives of the people who called it home. Moving from the ancient, silent ruins of Pavlopetri, we now set our sights on a far more recent, yet equally captivating tragedy, one measured not in stone but in gold and human ambition. In September 1857, the side-wheel steamer SS Central America was completing a now-famous run, carrying a fortune in California gold rush treasure from Panama to New York City. For nearly 600 passengers and crew, this voyage was the final leg of a long journey, a triumphant return to the East Coast with the hard-won fruits of their labor. But fate had a different plan. A hurricane of unprecedented fury caught the ship off the coast of the Carolinas. For 3 days, the crew fought a valiant but hopeless battle against the storm. The ship's boilers eventually failed, and on September 12th, the SS Central America slipped beneath the waves, taking with her 425 souls and a cargo of gold so immense it would later trigger a financial panic known as the Panic of 1857. For over a century, the ship and its legendary treasure were lost, resting undisturbed in the crushing darkness over 2,000 meters below the surface. It wasn't until 1988 that a team led by visionary ocean engineer Tommy Thompson, using a revolutionary, remotely operated robotic submarine named Nemo, finally pinpointed the wreckage. The discovery was momentous. As the sub's lights pierced the abyssal blackness, they illuminated a scene frozen in time. There, scattered across the seabed, were stacks of gold bars, thousands of glittering double eagle coins, and a stunning array of commercial gold shipped by San Francisco banks. The total value of the recovered treasure would eventually exceed $100 million, cementing its status as the greatest treasure haul ever recovered from the depths. But the true value of the SS Central America lies not in the bullion, but in the profoundly human artifacts that were preserved alongside it. The cold, anoxic depths of the Atlantic acted as a perfect time capsule, safeguarding delicate personal items that would have vanished anywhere else. Recovery teams brought up perfectly preserved daguerreotype photographs of miners and their families, their images still clear after a century and a half. They found personal letters, the ink still legible, filled with hopes of new lives and love for those back home. There were fabric samples, clothing, and even jars of preserves, all offering an incredibly intimate, tangible connection to the individuals aboard. One of the most haunting finds was a small child's purse, its contents of glass beads and a single coin still inside, a silent testament to a life cut tragically short. These objects transform the wreck from a mere treasure site into a deeply moving memorial, reminding us that this was a human tragedy of immense scale. The technological triumph of the recovery was matched only by the legal and ethical battles it sparked on the surface. Tommy Thompson's company, the Columbus America Discovery Group, employed a suite of cutting-edge technologies for the time, including a sophisticated underwater robot that could gently vacuum sediment and manipulate objects with precision. However, the discovery immediately triggered a complex legal war with insurance companies that had paid claims on the gold over 100 years earlier. The ensuing court cases went all the way to the Supreme Court and ultimately established a new legal precedent in maritime salvage law, affirming that a salvager who risks capital and succeeds in recovering a long-lost wreck is entitled to the vast majority of the reward, not merely a salvage fee. This landmark decision fundamentally changed the economics of deep-sea exploration. The legacy of the SS Central America is a powerful and complex one. It stands as a monument to both American ambition and its peril, a symbol of the incredible wealth generated by the gold rush and the profound human cost that often accompanied it. The scientific and legal breakthroughs from its recovery paved the way for all future deep-water archaeology and treasure hunting, proving that even the most inaccessible depths could be explored. Yet, the scattered personal effects serve as a permanent, poignant counterbalance to the glittering gold, ensuring that we remember the 425 dreams that sank to the bottom of the ocean, forever intertwined with the fortune they died trying to bring home. From the classic tragedy of the SS Central America, we now voyage across the globe to a marvel of ancient engineering that seems to defy all logic. Imagine a city built not on solid ground, but atop 100 artificial islands, a labyrinth of canals and walls constructed from stones so massive that their very presence feels like a physical impossibility. This is Nan Madol, a haunting, breathtaking ruin off the eastern shore of Pohnpei in Micronesia, often called the Venice of the Pacific. To see it from the air is to witness a puzzle laid out in stone against the vibrant blue of the lagoon, a geometric pattern of greatness slowly being reclaimed by the jungle and the sea. The scale of the construction is almost beyond comprehension. The entire complex covers nearly 2 square kilometers, consisting of 92 precisely placed artificial islets, each one painstakingly built up from the coral reef below. These islets are separated by a network of tidal canals, creating a city that must have been navigated entirely by canoe. But the true, jaw-dropping mystery of Nan Madol lies in the material used to build it, massive prismatic columns of basalt. These are not simple river rocks, they are enormous, naturally formed crystalline logs of black rock, some weighing up to 50 tons. The builders stacked these colossal columns like Lincoln logs, crisscrossing them to form towering walls that soar up to 15 meters high and are 5 meters thick in places. The logistics of this project are a nightmare that modern engineers still struggle to explain. The most perplexing question is how they moved these stones. The nearest basalt quarry is on the opposite side of the main island of Pohnpei, across treacherous terrain of dense jungle and swamp, and then over several kilometers of open water. The ancient builders had no pulleys, no metal tools, no wheels, and no draft animals. So how did they do it? Local legend provides a magical, captivating answer. Oral histories speak of twin sorcerer architects named Olasipa and Olasopa, who came from a distant land to erect a ceremonial center. They are said to have used a powerful form of magic to levitate the gigantic basalt logs through the air, guiding them effortlessly to the building site. It's a story that, in the face of such an impossible feat, feels almost reasonable. Modern researchers, of course, seek more earthly explanations, but even these theories are fraught with immense difficulty. Some suggest the stones were transported on bamboo rafts, but the weight of these monoliths would make such a vessel incredibly unstable in the open ocean. Others propose they were moved using a system of ropes, rollers, and an immense amount of coordinated human labor, perhaps rolling the logs on canoes lashed together to form a floating pontoon. Yet, even if we accept this method, the coordination and manpower required would have been staggering for a small island society, suggesting a level of social organization and political control that rivals the pyramid builders of Egypt. Dating the site adds another layer of intrigue. While the major construction is thought to have occurred between 1200 and 1600 CE, evidence suggests the site's sacred significance began far earlier, perhaps in the 1st or 2nd century. This long period of development implies that Nan Madol was the spiritual and political heart of the Sordelor dynasty, a ruling class that unified Pohnpei for the first time in its history. The city was likely not a place for common people, but an exclusive ceremonial center for the elite, priests, chiefs, and their attendants. The largest islet, Nandorwas, contains a massive central tomb, indicating it was a sacred burial ground for the ruling class, a place where their power was cemented in both life and death. Today, many of these outer islets and canals are permanently submerged by the rising Pacific, creating the haunting image of a sunken city. This has led to speculation that the sheer weight of the stone structures caused the underlying coral fill to compact and sink over the centuries, though the steady rise in global sea levels certainly plays a significant role. This gradual drowning adds to the site's profound aura of mystery and melancholy. Navigating its silent, flooded canals today, one can't help but feel the ghost of its former grandeur, a powerful testament to human ambition that ultimately could not hold back the relentless forces of nature. Nan Madol stands as a permanent question mark, challenging our assumptions about what ancient societies were capable of, and reminding us that some of history's greatest achievements are also its most enduring mysteries. Shifting our focus from sunken cities and shipwrecks, we come to a different kind of oceanic mystery, one that begins on dry land but points compellingly toward the sea. In 1952, archaeologists exploring a cave near the ancient settlement of Qumran on the northwest shore of the Dead Sea made a remarkable discovery. Among the famous Dead Sea Scrolls, they found one that was utterly unique. Unlike the others, which were written on fragile parchment or papyrus and contained religious texts, this one was made of a more durable metal, copper. And its content was not spiritual but material. It was an inventory, a list of 64 hiding places for a fortune in gold, silver, precious artifacts, and sacred vessels from the Second Temple in Jerusalem. This was the Copper Scroll, and it stands alone as perhaps the world's most famous treasure map. What makes the Copper Scroll so captivating is its tangible, almost taunting specificity. It doesn't speak in parables or prophecies. It reads like a set of practical instructions. It describes locations with references to ruins, dams, aqueducts, and specific geological features. For example, one entry might direct you to a certain cistern in a nearby valley, while another points to a tomb with a hidden cavity. The quantities are listed with breathtaking precision, mentioning vast sums like so many talents of gold and silver, along with precious perfumes, priestly vestments, and even a separate list of silver and gold vessels. The total value, by some modern estimates, would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. This was not a mythical hoard. It was a detailed record of a real, systematic effort to hide the tremendous wealth of a temple from an invading army, most likely the Romans during the First Jewish-Roman War around 70 CE. The great and enduring mystery, however, lies in its decoding. The directions are frustratingly cryptic, using archaic and obscure place names that have been lost to time. It's like being given a map where X marks the spot, but the landmarks used to find X have either vanished or were never clearly identified to begin with. This has led to a century of frantic and largely fruitless searches across the modern Israeli and Jordanian landscape. Countless expeditions have tried to match the scroll's descriptions to known geographical features, but the precise locations have remained stubbornly elusive. This repeated failure has caused many researchers to consider a radical alternative. What if the landmarks haven't just vanished but have been drowned? This is where the ocean enters the story. Geological studies show that the Mediterranean coastline has not been static over the past 2,000 years. Sea levels have risen, and in some areas the land itself has sunk due to tectonic activity. Several of the locations described in the Copper Scroll are in coastal plains or near ancient ports. It is entirely plausible that places which were once dry land, perhaps marked by a distinctive ruin or a particular cave, are now completely submerged under the Mediterranean Sea. The scroll might be directing treasure hunters to walk straight into the surf. This theory transforms the search from a land-based archaeological dig into a maritime salvage operation, requiring sonar, underwater drones, and a deep understanding of how the coastline has transformed over 2 millennia. The debate over the scroll's authenticity adds another layer of intrigue. Is it a genuine inventory created by temple priests to safeguard their sacred treasures from Roman looters? Or could it be a work of folklore or even an elaborate fiction? The sheer, almost unbelievable value of the treasure listed has led some skeptics to suggest it might be a collection of legendary treasures, a symbolic list rather than a practical one. Yet, the very fact that it was engraved on expensive copper, a deliberate choice for a document meant to last, argues strongly for its importance. Someone went to a great deal of trouble to create a permanent record of these hiding places, believing the information was crucially valuable. The allure of the Copper Scroll remains as powerful today as it was upon its discovery. It represents a tangible link to one of history's most pivotal moments, the destruction of the Second Temple, and the desperate attempt to preserve its sacred legacy. Whether its treasures lie buried in a forgotten desert valley or hidden beneath the gentle waves of the Mediterranean, it continues to captivate historians, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. It is a permanent reminder that some of history's greatest secrets are not just lost to time, but may also be lost to the sea, waiting for the perfect alignment of scholarship, technology, and luck to finally reveal their truth. Leaving behind the isolated mysteries of Nan Madol, we now travel to a site where ancient myth and modern archaeology converge in a way that feels almost miraculous. For thousands of years, the city of Dwarka existed primarily in the sacred texts of Hindu mythology. It was described as a magnificent, fortified city of gold and silver, built on the western coast of India by the divine Lord Krishna himself. According to the epic Mahabharata, this glorious kingdom was Krishna's celestial capital, a place of immense power and beauty. The legends recount that upon Krishna's departure from the earthly realm, the entire city was swallowed by the sea, lost to the waves in a single catastrophic event. For centuries, this was understood as a powerful spiritual allegory, a poetic metaphor for the transience of worldly power. But what if the story was also a historical record? This question began to find its answer in the 1980s when pioneering Indian marine archaeologist Dr. S.R. Rao began a systematic survey of the waters off the modern coastal town of Dwarka in Gujarat. What his team discovered there would send ripples through both the archaeological and religious communities. Scattered across the seabed, they found the undeniable remnants of an ancient settlement. There were not just a few scattered stones, but a wide array of structures and artifacts that pointed to a significant, organized port city. They documented large stone blocks that formed foundation walls, some arranged in geometric patterns that suggested carefully planned construction. Most tellingly, they recovered a multitude of stone anchors, the kind used by ancient mariners to secure their vessels. These anchors weren't scattered randomly, they were found in clusters, indicating a designated harbor area where ships would have once moored, loading and unloading goods. The material evidence pulled from the site provided crucial dating clues. Pottery shards, some with distinct markings, were analyzed and found to date back to the late Harappan period, around 1500 to 1800 BC. This timeline is incredibly significant. It places this sunken city squarely in the era of the Indus Valley civilization, also known as the Harappan civilization, which was one of the world's earliest and most advanced urban cultures. The discovery suggests that Dwarka was not a mythical city of gods, but a very real and sophisticated Harappan port city that thrived on maritime trade. Its inhabitants would have been master seafarers, likely trading with civilizations in Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf, their ships carrying goods across the ancient world. This archaeological timeline dovetails perfectly with geological evidence for a major climatic shift. Around 1500 BC, the world was experiencing the end of a warm period, which led to significant glacial melt and a consequent rise in global sea levels. For a coastal city like ancient Dwarka, this would have been a slow-moving disaster. Shorelines would have gradually encroached upon the settlement, with storm surges and high tides causing increasing damage over generations. It's easy to see how this gradual inundation, perhaps culminating in a particularly devastating storm or tsunami, could have been etched into cultural memory as a single dramatic event. The sea rising in a day to claim the city as punishment for the loss of its divine king. The discovery of Dwarka's underwater ruins offers a breathtaking synthesis of science and scripture. It doesn't prove the divine nature of Lord Krishna, but it does provide a compelling historical foundation for the legends that grew around him. It suggests that a great port city, perhaps a capital of a local kingdom associated with a charismatic leader named Krishna, did indeed exist on that very spot. Its eventual drowning by the rising sea was such a traumatic and pivotal event for its people that it became immortalized in myth. Its story passed down through countless generations until it was written into the sacred text. The stones on the seabed off the coast of Gujarat are a powerful testament to the idea that behind every legend, there often lies a kernel of historical truth, a memory of a real place and a real event that has been transformed by time and tradition into something eternal. While many of the ocean's secrets are ancient constructions or sunken cities, some defy categorization entirely, appearing as if a giant took a cookie cutter to the very crust of the earth. Off the coast of Sicily, in the shimmering blue waters of the Mediterranean, divers have mapped a feature so bizarre it seems ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. They call it the Moon Hole, a name that perfectly captures its otherworldly appearance. This isn't a pile of stones or the outline of a wall. It is a gaping, almost perfectly circular void in the seabed, a stark black circle against the pale sand and rock. Measuring a consistent 40 meters across from every angle, this abyss plunges straight down into the darkness, its true depth still a matter of speculation and fear. To hover at its rim is to stare into absolute nothingness, a feeling that is both awe-inspiring and deeply unnerving. The most immediate and compelling question is how such a geometrically perfect formation could occur naturally. Nature is a master of chaos and fractal patterns, but it rarely produces such clean, sharp lines and perfect circles without a specific, powerful process at work. This has, of course, fueled a wide range of theories, each attempting to solve the puzzle with the available clues. The most conventional explanation points toward a geological cause, suggesting the hole could be a blue hole or a submarine sinkhole. Similar formations, like the Great Blue Hole in Belize, are created when a limestone cave system on the seafloor collapses inward, leaving a deep, circular sinkhole. However, these usually have more irregular shapes and are often surrounded by a ring of coral or life, whereas the Moon Hole's stark, clean edges and apparent lack of surrounding debris make it a unique anomaly. Other scientists have proposed it could be the result of a meteorite impact, a space rock striking the shallow seabed at a perfect 90-degree angle could potentially blast out a clean, circular crater. Yet, this theory also faces challenges. Such an impact would likely leave behind telltale evidence like shocked quartz or a field of scattered debris and ejecta around the rim, none of which have been conclusively found. A third, more industrial theory suggests it might be the scar of an ancient mining operation, perhaps from the Greek or Roman eras, where miners followed a rich vein of minerals straight down in a circular shaft that later flooded. While ancient civilizations were capable of remarkable engineering, the scale and precision of this hole located underwater make this seem like a remote possibility. The mystery is compounded by the very environment that holds it. The darkness within the hole is not just an absence of light, it is a profound barrier to exploration. The water within is often described as unusually murky, clouded by silt or perhaps minerals leaching from the walls, making visibility near zero just a few meters down. This murk, combined with the unknown depth and the potential for narrow passages or dangerous currents, has severely limited manned dives and even the effectiveness of small, remotely operated vehicles. Furthermore, divers report unusual and dense congregations of marine life around the rim, large schools of fish and other organisms that seem drawn to the site, adding a layer of biological mystery to the geological one. This life might be feeding on nutrients welling up from the depths, suggesting the hole could be connected to a deeper hydrothermal vent system or aquifer, but no one knows for sure. This combination of factors, the perfect shape, the impenetrable darkness, and the strange biology, has left the moon hole largely unexplored and completely unexplained. It serves as a humbling reminder that even in a sea as well-traveled as the Mediterranean, there are still places that defy our understanding. It is a raw, geological question mark etched into the ocean floor, a silent and dark mystery that challenges our assumptions about the natural world and dares us to find the technology and the courage to finally plunge into its depths and learn its secrets. Transitioning from the dark abyss of the moon hole, we now turn to a discovery that offers not mystery, but a moment of breathtakingly clear preservation, a shipwreck so intact it feels as if it simply vanished moments ago. In the year 2003, a team of Swedish researchers was conducting a routine survey of the Baltic Sea floor, using advanced sonar to map methane gas seeps. Their screens typically displayed the gentle, muddy slopes of the seabed, but on this day, the sonar pinged back an image so sharp and detailed it seemed impossible. There, resting upright on the sediment at a depth of 125 meters, was the silhouette of a classic tall ship. Its masts were still standing, its hull was completely whole, and even the delicate rigging seemed to be perfectly in place. This wasn't the broken skeleton of a wreck, it was a ship frozen in a moment of tragic grace. They had found what would soon be known simply as the ghost ship. The initial dives by remote-operated vehicles only deepened the sense of awe. The cold, dark waters of the Baltic had performed a miraculous act of conservation. Unlike most oceans, the Baltic Sea has very low salinity and extremely low levels of oxygen at its deeper levels. This unique environment is inhospitable to the Teredo nivalis, or shipworm, a mollusk that devours wooden wrecks in saltier oceans within decades. Here, the wood was untouched. The vessel was immediately recognizable as a flight, a revolutionary Dutch merchant ship from the 17th century. These ships were the workhorses of their age, the semi-trucks of the Dutch Golden Age, designed with a large, bulbous hull to maximize cargo capacity and a narrow deck to minimize the tolls charged by the Danish at the Øresund Strait. Historians knew everything about flights from paintings and ledger books, but had never, ever seen one in the flesh. Every other known example had been consumed by the sea or broken apart. This ship was the only one. The level of preservation is nothing short of archaeological perfection. The crow's nest remains lashed to the mainmast, a silent lookout post. The wooden capstan, used to haul the heavy anchor, sits ready for sailors to put their backs into it. The ship's tender, a small boat that would have been used to ferry supplies, is still securely fastened to the main deck. Perhaps most hauntingly, the bowsprit, the forward-reaching spar at the front of the ship, still juts out proudly as if the vessel is merely at anchor. There are no visible signs of a catastrophic explosion or battle. The ship appears to have simply foundered in a storm, taking its secrets with it. This pristine condition offers a window into naval architecture that was previously just theory, allowing experts to study exactly how these efficient and hugely influential vessels were constructed, down to the precise joinery of the beams. But beyond the engineering, the ghost ship is a stunningly intimate time capsule of daily life at sea. On the deck, divers found a pair of leather boots, perhaps discarded by a sailor in a moment of respite. In the galley, the stove remained in place, the last meal it cooked long since vanished. The artifact spoke of a working vessel, a floating commercial enterprise manned by a crew whose names are lost to history. The absence of human remains suggests the crew may have had time to take to the lifeboats, though their fate in the stormy Baltic remains unknown. This ship doesn't just show us how they built ships, it shows us how they lived on them, a floating wooden world captured in a state of suspended animation. The discovery fundamentally changes our understanding of maritime history. Before this find, our knowledge of 17th century ships came from royal warships like the Vasa, which sank in 1628 and was raised in the 1960s. But the Vasa was a lavish, top-heavy warship, a flawed and unique project. The ghost ship is the polar opposite. It is a flawless example of a common, mass-produced, and brilliantly designed merchant vessel. It represents the true backbone of European trade and colonialism, the kind of ship that built empires and connected continents through commerce. To see it so complete is to see the real engine of the age of exploration, not the glamorous exception. It stands on the seabed as a monument to the countless unknown sailors and merchants who navigated the treacherous oceans, their stories usually lost to the relentless sea. This one silent ship, however, refused to be forgotten. Just as the Baltic's ghost ship offers a perfectly preserved glimpse into a known era, our journey now takes us to a discovery that, if proven true, could shatter our entire timeline of human history in the Americas. In the summer of 2001, a Canadian exploration company named Advanced Digital Communications was conducting a deep-sea survey off the western tip of Cuba in the treacherous waters of the Yucatan Channel. Their mission was practical, to map the seafloor for potential oil and gas reserves. But as their sophisticated side-scan sonar sled glided 2,200 feet below the surface, it began transmitting images that were anything but ordinary. What appeared on their monitors was a sprawling, urban landscape of seemingly geometric structures, covering a staggering area of nearly 20 square kilometers, a site larger than the modern city of Havana itself. The sonar images, which were later published in mainstream journals, were jaw-dropping in their clarity and implication. They showed what appeared to be large, smooth, pyramidal structures, some even looking like they were built from massive stone blocks. Other formations resembled great, wide plazas connected by a network of linear, crisscrossing lines that looked uncannily like paved roads or city streets. One particularly compelling section seemed to show a series of concentric circular patterns, not unlike an ancient amphitheater or a ceremonial center. The sheer scale and regularity of the formations screamed of intelligent design, a planned complex rather than a random geological event. It was a moment that seemed to leap straight from the pages of a fantasy novel, a sunken world revealed by pure technological chance. The immediate and most profound challenge this discovery presents is its staggering depth. These structures are resting under 2,000 feet of water. For them to have been built on dry land, they would have to date back to a time when global sea levels were dramatically lower. The last time the sea level was that low was at the peak of the last ice age, approximately 12,000 years ago. This timeline is the heart of the controversy. Mainstream archaeology firmly holds that during this period, known as the Paleolithic era, humans in the Americas were small bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers. They were following mammoths and other megafauna across the Bering Land Bridge, using sophisticated but relatively simple stone tools. The idea that an organized, complex society capable of constructing monumental architecture existed at this time, especially in the Caribbean, is a concept that fundamentally upends the established narrative of human civilization in the New World. Unsurprisingly, the scientific community reacted with intense skepticism. Geologists were quick to offer alternative explanations, proposing that the formations could be a rare but natural type of sandstone formation. They pointed to phenomena like tessellated pavement, where natural cracking in the rock can create strikingly geometric blocks that look man-made. Other experts suggested the structures could be the result of volcanic activity or tectonic shifts that fractured the seabed into deceptively regular patterns. The primary argument from skeptics is a powerful one. The human brain is hardwired for pareidolia, the tendency to see familiar patterns, like faces in clouds or cities on the ocean floor in random stimuli. Without physical evidence, they argue, the sonar images are just intriguing Rorschach tests. Despite these strong counter-arguments, a vocal group of researchers and archaeologists, including the late Paulina Zalitsky, who led the initial expedition, maintain that the site demands a thorough, unbiased investigation. They argue that the precise angles, the right-angled intersections, and the sheer organized layout of the complex go far beyond what typical geological processes can create. The call for a proper archaeological expedition, however, runs into the monumental challenges of depth and funding. Exploring a site at 2,000 feet requires remotely operated vehicles or submersibles capable of withstanding immense pressure, a venture that costs millions of dollars. Furthermore, even if such an expedition were launched, conclusive proof would require retrieving unmistakable artifacts, a tool, a piece of pottery, or an inscribed stone from the site, a task like finding a needle in a haystack at the bottom of the ocean. The Cuban underwater city remains one of the most tantalizing and frustrating enigmas on our list. It represents the ultimate what-if scenario. If it is natural, it is one of the most spectacular geological illusions on the planet. But if it is artificial, it forces a complete rewrite of human history, suggesting a lost chapter of advanced civilization that rose and fell long before the Egyptians built their pyramids or the Mesopotamians laid their first bricks. It stands as a silent, profound challenge, a mystery resting in the crushing abyss, daring us to find the resources and the will to finally answer a question that could change everything we think we know about our past. While our journey has so far taken us into the depths of the open ocean, some of history's most enigmatic relics are found in far quieter waters, holding secrets just as profound. Just a short distance from the chaos of ancient Rome, the tranquil, volcanic Lake Nemi cradled a mystery for nearly 2,000 years. Local fishermen had long spoken of vast, shadowy forms lurking in the deep, their nets sometimes snagging on ancient woodwork. These were not just rumors, they were whispers of a lost chapter of Roman engineering, a secret that would take a modern dictator's ambition to finally reveal. In a massive engineering project ordered by Mussolini himself, the waters of Lake Nemi were partially drained between 1928 and 1932, and as the water level dropped, the world watched in awe as two colossal wooden ships emerged from the mud, preserved in stunning detail. These were not ordinary warships or merchant vessels. They were enormous, opulent pleasure barges, floating palaces commissioned by the infamous Emperor Caligula around 40 CE. The larger of the two was a staggering 73 meters long, longer than a Boeing 747, with a beam of 24 meters, making it the largest known ship from the ancient world until the modern era. But their size was just the beginning of the astonishment. As archaeologists carefully excavated the silt-filled hulls, they uncovered a level of technological sophistication that seemed to defy the era entirely. The Romans were known for their engineering prowess, but the Nemi ships showcased innovations that historians believed were inventions of a much later age. Perhaps the most astounding discovery was a complete and complex plumbing system. The ships were equipped with lead pipes, brass valves, and even piston pumps that could have been used to circulate water or, most likely, to supply hot and cold running water to the baths on board. Evidence of a sophisticated heating system was found, suggesting these barges had heated floors, a luxury even by today's standards. But the real showstopper was a set of rotating platforms, supported by metal rollers that were the direct ancestors of modern ball bearings. These mechanisms are believed to have been part of a primitive but effective bearing system, possibly used to rotate statues of the gods or to allow for movable decks, creating dynamic theatrical settings for Caligula's lavish parties and religious ceremonies. The ships were also fitted with elaborate anchors equipped with iron-stocked winches, a design so advanced it wouldn't be seen again for centuries. The purpose of these technological marvels was pure, unadulterated decadence. Ancient texts suggest Emperor Caligula, in his deification of himself, used the larger ship as a floating temple dedicated to the Egyptian goddess Isis, complete with marble tiles, mosaic floors, and gilded bronze roof tiles. It was a place for him to indulge his fantasies of godhood, a secluded, movable palace on the water where he could escape the politics of Rome and immerse himself in a world of his own creation. The smaller ship was likely a functional temple dedicated to Diana, the goddess of the hunt, whose sacred grove surrounded the lake. Together, they represented a fusion of extreme wealth, religious mania, and cutting-edge Roman engineering, a testament to what could be achieved when virtually unlimited resources were put into the hands of brilliant, if morally unbound minds. The story of the Nemi ships, however, holds a final, devastating twist. After their incredible recovery, they were housed in a specially built museum on the lake shore. For over a decade, they were studied and admired as priceless windows into the ancient world. But in June 1944, during the brutal fighting of World War II, as Allied forces advanced toward Rome, a fire broke out in the museum. The exact cause remains a subject of debate. Whether it was German artillery shells or a deliberate act of sabotage by retreating forces may never be known. The result was tragically clear. The ancient, resin-rich timbers of the 2,000-year-old ships were instantly engulfed in an inferno. Within hours, these unparalleled relics of Roman ingenuity were reduced to little more than charcoal and ash. Today, all that remains are the black and white photographs, the engineering drawings, and a handful of bronze fittings that survived the blaze, housed in a rebuilt museum. The loss is incalculable, a catastrophic blow to our cultural heritage. Yet, the legacy of the Nemi ships endures. They stand as permanent proof that the ancient world was far more technologically creative than we often give it credit for. Their existence forces us to reconsider the narrative of linear progress, reminding us that brilliance can be lost and that history's most advanced inventions can sometimes be found not in the future, but buried in the mud of the past, waiting for their moment to be rediscovered. While the Nemi ships showcased the heights of human engineering, our next discovery reveals a landscape crafted entirely by the forces of nature, a world within a world that defies all conventional logic. Picture this: you are a deep-sea explorer piloting a submersible through the inky blackness of the Black Sea, over 2,000 feet below the surface. Your sonar picks up something impossible, not a shipwreck or a geological formation, but a river. A fully functioning river, complete with meandering channels, sloping riverbanks, waterfalls, and even floodplains, all flowing silently along the seafloor. This is not a metaphor, it is a stunning geological reality. Scientists exploring the bottom of the Black Sea have mapped an entire submerged river, a discovery so bizarre it feels like something from a science fiction novel, yet it is entirely real. The mechanics behind this underwater marvel are a fascinating lesson in fluid dynamics. The Black Sea is far less salty than the Mediterranean Sea, which connects to it via the narrow Bosphorus Strait. Denser, saltier water from the Mediterranean constantly flows into the less dense Black Sea, not along the surface but along the seabed itself. This heavy, saline current doesn't just mix in, it maintains its integrity, flowing downward until it hits the continental shelf. There, it begins to behave exactly like a river on land, following the path of least resistance. It carves out steep-sided channels, creates riverbanks from accumulated sediment, and even forms underwater waterfalls as it cascades down cliffs and drops into the abyssal plains. This river, now known as the Black Sea Submarine River, has a flow rate that is truly staggering. Scientists estimate that if it were on land, it would be the 6th largest river in the world by volume, carrying an astonishing amount of water every second. The implications of this discovery have sent ripples through the fields of marine geology and biology. For geologists, the river acts as a powerful underwater bulldozer, transporting vast amounts of sediment and organic material across the seafloor. This process is a primary architect of the Black Sea's unique underwater topography, shaping canyons and depositing nutrients in deep basins that would otherwise be barren deserts. It provides a living laboratory to study how sedimentary processes work in extreme environments, offering clues about how ancient underwater landscapes on Earth and possibly even on other planets may have formed. The river's channels and flow patterns are remarkably similar to those found on Mars, giving planetary scientists a terrestrial analog to better understand the red planet's mysterious past. But perhaps even more exciting is the river's role as an underwater oasis. The dense, saline water of the river carries a different chemical signature and higher oxygen content than the surrounding deep seawater, which is often anoxic and lifeless. This creates a narrow, lush corridor of habitability along its banks. Specialized chemosynthetic bacteria thrive here, forming the base of a unique food web. These microbes attract larger organisms, creating a vibrant, isolated ecosystem in the profound darkness. For marine biologists, finding such a rich congregation of life along this liquid highway is like discovering a hidden rainforest in the middle of a desert. It challenges our understanding of where and how life can persist in the most hostile environments on our planet. This incredible feature also offers a tantalizing glimpse into Earth's dramatic history. The Black Sea was once a much smaller freshwater lake before rising global sea levels around 7,600 years ago caused a catastrophic inundation from the Mediterranean. Some theories suggest this event was so rapid it could be the origin of the Great Flood myths found in many cultures. The underwater river we see today is a direct continuation of that ancient, transformative process, a permanent flow of salt water that quietly reshaped a continent and continues to sculpt the hidden world below. It stands as a breathtaking reminder that our planet still holds profound secrets, and that even the most familiar phenomena can manifest in the most alien and unexpected ways, waiting in the deep to redefine our sense of wonder. After exploring submerged cities and ancient shipwrecks, we come to an enigmatic relic of a different kind, one that speaks not to our past, but to our enduring spiritual connection with the sea. In the clear, sun-dappled waters off the Italian Riviera, near the picturesque village of San Fructuoso, a unique figure keeps watch over the underwater world. Here, resting on a pedestal 16 meters below the surface, stands the Cristo degli Abissi, the Christ of the Abyss. This life-sized bronze statue of Jesus Christ, with his arms raised peacefully toward the heavens, has become one of the ocean's most iconic and unexpectedly moving sights, a modern artifact that has taken on a profound life of its own. The story of this underwater savior begins not in antiquity, but in the middle of the 20th century. Italian sculptor Guido Galletti created the statue in 1954, inspired by an idea from legendary Italian diver Duilio Marconte. Marconte wanted to create a lasting memorial for his friend Dario Gonzatti, one of the first pioneers of scuba diving in Italy, who had tragically died during a dive several years earlier. The concept was to place a symbol of peace and protection on the seafloor, a guardian for all those who ventured into the deep and a solemn tribute to those who never returned. The statue was cast from bronze, using medals, old ship propellers, and even bells donated by the Italian Navy, melting down the relics of the sea to create a new symbol of hope. The ceremony for its placement was a moment of great poetry and emotion. On August 22, 1954, the statue was lowered into the waters of the Bay of San Fructuoso, not far from the spot where Gonzatti had lost his life. It was consecrated by a priest who gave his blessing from a boat on the surface as a flotilla of small vessels and a crowd of divers looked on. From that moment, the Christ of the Abyss ceased to be merely a sculpture and began its transformation into a living part of the marine environment. The clear Mediterranean water and gentle light filtering down from above created an ethereal atmosphere around the figure, making it appear almost celestial. What makes this relic so captivating is how it has been adopted and embraced by the ocean itself. Over the decades, the statue has become a thriving artificial reef, completely encrusted with vibrant marine life. Sea anemones wave from his outstretched arms, colorful corals paint his robes, and schools of curious fish constantly swirl around him. This natural colonization has blurred the line between the man-made and the natural, making the statue feel like an organic part of the seascape. For divers who make the pilgrimage to see him, the experience is often described as deeply spiritual, a moment of unexpected tranquility and awe. The silent, serene figure seems to offer a blessing not just to lost sailors, but to the entire underwater world, a symbol of harmony between humanity and the sea. The original statue's powerful resonance led to the creation of several copies, each with its own story. Another cast by Galletti was presented to the United States and now rests in the waters of Key Largo, Florida, as a memorial for all those lost at sea. A third stands near the entrance of the harbor of St. George's, Grenada, placed there as a promise of protection after a tragic shipwreck. These replicas have spread the statue's message of peace across the globe, creating underwater shrines that are visited by thousands of divers every year. They serve as international landmarks of remembrance, uniting people across cultures in their shared reverence for the ocean's power and beauty. The Christ of the Abyss is a relic that represents a very modern kind of mystery. It isn't mysterious because we don't know its origin, but because of the powerful, almost mystical presence it has developed over time. It asks no historical riddles, but instead offers a quiet answer to our need for meaning and connection. In a world where we often see the ocean as a resource to be exploited or a frontier to be conquered, this serene bronze figure reminds us of a different relationship, one of respect, wonder, and spiritual contemplation. It stands as a permanent, peaceful sentinel in the silent world, a testament to our timeless desire to find solace and sanctuary in the vast blue heart of our planet. While the Christ of the Abyss offers a modern spiritual connection, our next discovery plunges us back into the deep past, presenting a puzzle that could fundamentally reshape our understanding of ancient North America. The vast, cold waters of Lake Michigan are a graveyard for thousands of shipwrecks, which is exactly what a team of underwater archaeologists led by Mark Holley was systematically searching for in 2007. Using state-of-the-art sonar to map the lakebed near Traverse City, they expected to find the timbers of a schooner or the steel hull of a freighter. Instead, their screens displayed something that made no sense at all. There, under 12 meters of water, was a series of large stones arranged in a deliberate, startling pattern. What the sonar revealed, and what divers later confirmed, was a striking alignment of stones that immediately drew comparisons to Europe's megalithic sites. A number of large, long stones, each roughly a meter high, were placed in a clear circular formation. But the most captivating feature was at the center of this circle, a single, massive boulder that was not just placed but appeared to be intricately carved. As divers carefully brushed away 10,000 years of sediment and invasive mussels, a figure began to emerge. The carving, if that is what it is, seems to depict a large animal with a stout body, legs, and a long, curving trunk bearing an unmistakable resemblance to a mastodon. This is the detail that transforms the site from an intriguing oddity into a potential historical earthquake. The implications of that single image are staggering. Mastodons, ancient elephant-like creatures, went extinct in North America around 10,500 years ago. For a human to have seen one, to have known its shape well enough to carve it, and then to have carved it onto this stone, the site would have to predate that extinction event by a significant margin. This would place human activity at the location not just centuries, but millennia earlier than the oldest currently accepted complex sites in the region, such as the Hopewell culture mounds. It would suggest that a society with not only the artistic inclination, but also the organizational skills to arrange these large stones in a purposeful formation was present in the Great Lakes region at the very tail end of the last ice age. This completely upends the traditional narrative of how and when sophisticated human cultures developed in the Americas. Unsurprisingly, a discovery of this potential magnitude has been met with intense skepticism from the broader archaeological community. The central point of contention is the mastodon carving itself. Critics argue that the lines forming the animal could be the product of natural glacial processes. Glaciers, which once covered this entire region, are notorious for scraping and scoring bedrock with deep, straight grooves called striations. They can also leave behind erratic boulders with unusual shapes. It is entirely possible, skeptics suggest, that the combination of natural fractures and glacial scratches on this particular rock simply happens to create a pattern that our pattern-seeking brains interpret as a mastodon. Without clear, indisputable tool marks, they caution, it is premature to call it a carving. Furthermore, the site's underwater location presents a unique challenge for dating. Traditional methods like carbon dating are useless on stone. Researchers must instead rely on contextual clues, such as reconstructing the ancient shoreline of Lake Michigan. Geologists know that the water levels in the Great Lakes have fluctuated dramatically over the millennia. The area where the stones now lie would have been dry land until approximately 9,000 years ago, when rising water levels gradually submerged it. This timeline does, in fact, leave a narrow window where humans could have accessed the site on foot and created the formation before it was lost to the lake. This geological evidence doesn't prove the site is authentic, but it doesn't rule it out either, adding a layer of tantalizing possibility to the mystery. The debate continues, leaving the underwater Stonehenge in a state of captivating limbo. For every expert who sees the unmistakable hand of an ancient artist, another sees a remarkable Rorschach test in stone. The truth may remain elusive until more sophisticated technology can be deployed to analyze the carving for microscopic evidence of tool work, or until similar sites are found that can provide corroborating evidence. Until then, the stones sit silently on the lakebed, a silent and profound question mark. They represent the very essence of archaeological discovery, a clue that doesn't quite fit, a story that challenges the history books, and a reminder that the past, much like the deep waters of the Great Lakes, still holds secrets that are waiting for the right moment to surface. Even as we marvel at the potential Ice Age secrets of the Great Lakes, history provides us with a story so dramatic it was once thought to be mere legend, only for the sea to offer up its proof centuries later. Our journey now takes us to the tempestuous coast of northern Greece, to an event immortalized by the father of history himself. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote of a moment of divine salvation, a cataclysm that befell a mighty empire and forever altered the course of Western civilization. He told of the first Persian invasion of Greece, a massive military endeavor launched by King Darius the Great in 492 BCE. The Persian army was formidable, but its fate rested on the navy that carried it. According to Herodotus, as this immense fleet of perhaps 300 ships attempted to round the perilous cape of Mount Athos, they were caught by a sudden and violent north wind. The historian describes a storm of apocalyptic fury, a hurricane that dashed the ships against the cliffs, utterly destroying the fleet and drowning an estimated 20,000 men. For centuries, this account was read as a classic tale from antiquity, a possible exaggeration by a historian known for his colorful storytelling. Could a storm truly wipe out an entire invasion force, or was this a convenient myth, a way for the Greeks to explain a victory that was handed to them by the gods rather than won by their own hands? The answer to this ancient question began to emerge from the deep in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Underwater archaeologists, drawn to the area by Herodotus's vivid account, began a systematic search of the seabed near Mount Athos. The waters here are notoriously treacherous, with sudden storms and powerful currents, making exploration a dangerous endeavor. But their perseverance was rewarded with a discovery that sent chills through the historical community. Scattered across the seafloor, nestled amongst the rocks and sand, they found the tangible, rusted evidence of Herodotus's story. The artifacts were a time capsule from the dawn of the Persian Wars. They uncovered ancient arrowheads of a distinct Persian design, their iron heads now fused to the stone they rested upon. They found the telltale remains of classic Greek triremes, the warships that would have been commandeered by the Persians from their Ionian Greek subjects. Most compellingly, they discovered the personal equipment of the soldiers who went down with the ship's bronze helmets, the shattered tips of spears, and the distinctive, heavy Daranic shields used by Persian infantry. These were not the artifacts of a trading post or a small shipwreck. This was the debris field of a massive, concentrated naval catastrophe. The significance of these finds cannot be overstated. They provide stunning archaeological corroboration for an event that happened 2,500 years ago, transforming Herodotus from a mere storyteller into a reliable chronicler of a specific catastrophic event. This was not a myth, it was a historical reality. The storm off Mount Athos was a pivotal moment in world history, a disaster that forced the humiliated Persian king Darius to abandon his immediate plans to conquer Greece. This delay was crucial. It gave the stubborn, independent Greek city-states, particularly Athens and Sparta, precious time to prepare for the conflict they knew was still coming. The failed invasion of 492 BC set the stage for the legendary Battle of Marathon just 2 years later, where the outnumbered Athenian army achieved a stunning victory against the Second Persian expedition. Without the catastrophic loss of the First Persian fleet, the Greeks might not have been united or prepared enough to achieve that later famous stand. The storm, in a very real sense, saved Greece, allowing the embryonic ideas of democracy and Western philosophy to survive their first great encounter with the monolithic Eastern Empire. Discovering the physical evidence of this event does more than just confirm a story. It allows us to connect with the human scale of the tragedy. Each arrowhead, each helmet, represents a life lost far from home. These were not faceless invaders, but soldiers and sailors who endured the terror of a ship breaking apart in a raging sea, their imperial ambitions drowned in the cold water of the Aegean. The underwater site is a silent memorial to one of history's greatest naval disasters, a stark reminder of the immense power of nature to intervene in human affairs. It stands as a permanent testament to the fragility of even the most powerful armies when faced with the unforgiving sea, and it proves that sometimes the most incredible stories from the ancient world are waiting just beneath the waves, ready to be found. After the colossal forces that shaped history and the grand tragedies of sunken fleets, it's almost refreshing to turn our attention to a mystery that is smaller in scale, but no less astonishing in its complexity. Imagine you are a diver gliding through the clear, shallow waters off the coast of Japan. The sandy seabed stretches out before you, a mostly featureless plain until you see it. A vast, intricate geometric pattern carved into the sand, a stunning circular formation of ridges and valleys that looks exactly like a gigantic, otherworldly crop circle. The precision is breathtaking, the symmetry flawless. Your first thought would understandably leap to the realm of the unexplained, ancient symbols, alien visitors, or a message from a lost civilization. But the truth behind these underwater enigmas is far more wonderful, and it reveals a secret about the natural world that was hiding in plain sight until shockingly recently. These mysterious formations are not the work of human hands, nor are they relics from some forgotten culture. They are the love songs of a creature no bigger than your hand, the male Japanese pufferfish. For decades, these intricate circles were occasionally spotted by divers who dismissed them as odd curiosities or perhaps the work of unknown currents. It wasn't until 1995 that scientists finally began to systematically study them, and even then, their true purpose remained a complete puzzle for years. The pufferfish responsible is a small, rather unassuming white fish with dark spots, an animal that seems utterly incapable of the artistic genius it displays. Using only the frantic flapping of a single fin, this tiny architect works tirelessly day and night for up to a full week to complete a single design. The effort is so immense that the fish often neglects to eat during this period, pouring every ounce of its energy into creating this ephemeral masterpiece in the sand. And what a masterpiece it is! A single structure can measure up to 2 meters in diameter, which is over 20 times the length of the fish itself. The design is meticulously organized. At the center is a simple, nested circle where the all-important mating will eventually take place. Radiating out from this center are a series of perfectly symmetrical ridges and valleys, creating a striking spoke-like pattern. But the pufferfish is not just an earth mover, he is a decorator. He painstakingly collects bits of brittle coral and the Chinese letter of white seashells, carefully embedding them along the crests of the outermost ridges. Researchers believe this serves a very specific purpose. The white shell fragments help to highlight the grooves of the structure, enhancing the visual contrast and making the entire pattern even more striking and visible to a potential mate swimming above. This brings us to the heart of the mystery. Why would a small fish go to such extraordinary, energy-draining lengths? The answer, discovered through patient underwater observation, is one of the most elegant examples of sexual selection in the animal kingdom. These sculptures are not art for art's sake, they are a critical fitness test. The female pufferfish swims over the completed circles, inspecting the male's handiwork with a discerning eye. She is looking for complexity, symmetry, and the overall quality of the construction. The more ridges and the finer the decorative details, the more impressed she becomes. A superior design signals to the female that this particular male is a superior mate. He possesses the strength, the stamina, and the genetic quality necessary to undertake such a Herculean task. Only if she is satisfied with his work will she agree to mate with him in the center of the circle, laying her eggs in the soft sand of the central nest that he has so carefully prepared. The existence and purpose of these pufferfish circles force us to re-evaluate our very definitions of art, architecture, and instinct. This isn't a learned behavior. It is hardwired into the fish's DNA, a biological imperative expressed through breathtaking geometric precision. It challenges our human-centric view that complex aesthetic creation is our sole domain. Here, in the sandy shallows, a creature with a brain the size of a pea is executing a design plan of stunning complexity, all for the most primal of drives. These temporary temples of sand, washed away by the next strong current, are among the most enigmatic relics the ocean has to offer. They remind us that nature is the original and most prolific artist, and that some of its greatest wonders are not monuments of stone, but fleeting expressions of life's enduring and creative will to carry on. Moving from the delicate sand art of the pufferfish, we plunge into a chapter of history that is both dark and technologically profound. a story not of nature's artistry but of humanity's relentless drive for innovation even in the face of utter defeat. As World War II drew to its bloody close in 1945, the once feared German U-boat fleet, the scourge of the Atlantic, faced a grim and final order. Rather than surrender their vessels to the advancing Allies, the German High Command initiated a massive and deliberate sinking operation code named Operation Deadlight. The plan was as chilling as it was systematic. Over 100 of the remaining U-boats were to be towed by Allied ships to designated areas off the coast of Ireland and Scotland, where they would be scuttled and sent to the bottom of the sea. The goal was twofold: to permanently prevent these advanced weapons from ever being used again, and to ensure their most sensitive technological secrets would be lost to the deep. But this was no ordinary fleet of obsolete vessels. Among the rusting hulks resting on the seabed were some of the most revolutionary submarine designs the world had ever seen. The crown jewel of this sunken arsenal was the Type 21 U-boat, known as the Electroboot or electric boat. This was a machine so far ahead of its time that it effectively rendered every other submarine in the world obsolete overnight. Unlike its predecessors, which were essentially surface ships that could submerge for short, frantic attacks, the Type 21 was a true submarine, designed to operate underwater for extended periods. Its most groundbreaking feature was its schnorchel, a retractable mast that allowed it to run its diesel engines while submerged at periscope depth, charging its massive battery banks without having to surface and reveal itself. This innovation alone gave it a stealth capability that Allied forces had no answer for. Furthermore, its streamlined hull, designed based on lessons learned from captured British submarines, allowed it to travel faster underwater than it could on the surface, a feat previously thought impossible. The legacy of these sunken giants extends far beyond their role in the war. When Allied naval experts finally got their hands on a few captured Type 21s before the mass scuttling, they were astounded. The design principles of the Electroboot became the direct blueprint for the next generation of submarines in both the East and the West. The American Greyback class and the Soviet Whiskey class submarines were essentially reverse-engineered copies of the German technology. The very shape of modern submarines, their focus on underwater performance over surface handling, and their reliance on advanced battery technology can all trace their lineage directly back to those wrecks lying off the British Isles. These sunken U-boats are not just war graves, they are the foundational textbooks of Cold War undersea warfare. Today, these wrecks have become invaluable, if somber, time capsules for historians and technical divers. Resting at depths ranging from 50 to over 200 meters, they offer a frozen snapshot of naval technology at a pivotal moment in history. The most tantalizing prize for researchers is the potential presence of the infamous Enigma cipher machines. While many were destroyed by crews following orders, it is believed that some of these complex encryption devices, along with their ever-changing codebooks, remain locked within the corroded radio rooms of these submarines. Finding one would be a historical coup, not for code breaking; those secrets are long solved, but for the physical preservation of the very machine that shaped the secret battle of the Atlantic. Beyond the Enigmas, the wrecks hold other advanced equipment, enhanced sonar arrays, new types of torpedo guidance systems, and perhaps even experimental technology that never made it into the official logs. Exploring these sites is a fraught and ethically complex endeavor. They are officially considered war graves, the final resting place for any crewmen who may have gone down with their ships during the operation. The cold, saline waters of the North Atlantic have preserved the steel hulls in a state of eerie suspension, but they are also treacherous dive sites, subject to powerful currents and often poor visibility. Each expedition must balance the pursuit of knowledge with a solemn respect for the lives lost. Studying these technological marvels forces us to confront a difficult paradox: that some of the most brilliant engineering in human history was forged in the service of a monstrous regime. The sunken U-boat fleet stands as a permanent underwater monument to the terrifying pace of wartime innovation and the complex legacy we inherit from the depths of conflict, a stark reminder that progress often has a dark and heavy price. Even as we marvel at the intricate creations of nature and the sunken machinery of war, our journey now takes us to one of the most iconic and mysterious places on Earth, a location that holds a secret beneath its famous shoreline. Everyone recognizes the massive, stoic stone heads of Easter Island, known as Moe, their enigmatic gazes fixed inland across the grassy slopes of Rapa Nui. But what few realize is that the island's mysteries extend far beyond the coast. In the clear, shallow waters just off the beach at Ahu Tongariki, the island's largest ceremonial platform, snorkelers and divers can encounter something astonishing, more Moe. These are not full statues toppled from the cliffs above, but heads that appear to be emerging from the seabed itself, their features carved with the same unmistakable solemnity as their counterparts on land. The immediate and most logical explanation for their presence points to the relentless power of coastal erosion. Easter Island is a volcanic peak, and its shores have been constantly reshaped by waves and storms for centuries. It is entirely possible that sections of coastline where Moe once stood have simply crumbled into the sea over time, taking the statues with them. The ones we see today, with only their heads visible, might be complete statues buried upright in the sand and sediment that has accumulated around them, with only the top portion still exposed. This theory is supported by the fact that many inland Moe were found buried up to their necks during archaeological excavations, having been slowly covered by soil after being abandoned. The ocean could simply be continuing that natural process of concealment. However, the placement of these underwater Moe has sparked a far more tantalizing and controversial theory. The traditional narrative holds that the Rapa Nui people carved and erected all of their Moe from a single quarry, the volcanic crater of Rono Raraku, and then transported them across the island to various ceremonial platforms or ahu. But what if some of these statues didn't just fall into the water? What if they were meant to be there? A compelling alternative suggestion is that these submerged heads might actually mark the sites of now flooded ahu, ceremonial platforms that were built on land which has since been swallowed by the rising Pacific Ocean. As global sea levels crept upward after the last ice age, low-lying coastal areas around the world were inundated. Easter Island, remote and small, would have been no exception. This theory proposes that the island's coastline was once significantly larger, and that what we see today is merely the high ground remnant of a much more extensive civilization. This idea opens up a profound and unsettling possibility. The incredible feat of engineering and social organization required to carve and move nearly 900 massive stone statues has always suggested that Rapa Nui supported a complex and populous society at its peak. If a substantial portion of their habitable land is now underwater, it could mean their civilization was far larger and more sophisticated than we currently comprehend. The submerged Moe might not be accidents of erosion, but silent sentinels guarding the drowned villages, gardens, and temples of their ancestors. They could be the clues to a lost chapter in the island's history, hinting at a population that thrived on coastal plains that no longer exist. This would completely reshape our understanding of the island's tragic story, suggesting that environmental collapse and societal downfall may have been accelerated by the loss of crucial living space to the encroaching sea. The mystery of the underwater Moe forces us to look at Easter Island not as an isolated mystery, but as part of a global pattern. Around the world, from the North Sea to the Persian Gulf, archaeologists are finding evidence of human habitation on land that was dry during the last glacial maximum but is now submerged. The coastlines of the ancient world were prime real estate for early humans, offering access to marine resources and facilitating travel. The discovery of these sunken statues serves as a powerful reminder that the current coastlines of our continents are a recent phenomenon in geological terms. and that the true extent of many ancient cultures may be hidden, waiting to be discovered not in the earth but in the gentle embrace of the sea. These ghostly heads beneath the waves are more than just fallen monuments. They are a direct challenge, beckoning us to reconsider the scale of a lost world and the enduring secrets that still lie just beyond our view. While the world's attention has long been fixed on the tragic fate of the RMS Titanic, its lesser-known sister ship holds a story that is in many ways just as compelling, resting in a silent, sun-drenched corner of the Aegean Sea. This is the story of HMHS Britannic, the third and largest of the White Star Line's Olympic-class liners, a vessel born from the lessons of a famous disaster only to meet its own tragic end in the shadow of a global war. Launched in 1914, Britannic was conceived as the ultimate refinement of her infamous sister, incorporating major safety modifications directly in response to the Titanic's sinking. Her hull was reinforced with a double skin. She was equipped with massive gantry davits that could launch lifeboats even if the ship listed severely, and most importantly, her watertight bulkheads were raised higher and extended further into the superstructure. She was, by every measure, designed to be unsinkable. Yet, on the morning of November 21, 1916, just 55 minutes after a violent explosion shook the ship, this monument of maritime safety was lying on its side on the bottom of the Key Channel. Britannic's short life was defined not by luxury transatlantic travel, but by the grim realities of the First World War. Before she could ever carry a paying passenger, she was requisitioned by the British Admiralty and converted into a His Majesty's hospital ship. Her grand public rooms were stripped of their opulence and transformed into vast wards for wounded soldiers. Her spacious decks now served as recovery areas, and she was painted entirely white with a broad green stripe and large red crosses running the length of her hull, a clear international symbol meant to guarantee her protection under the rules of war. On that November day, she was on her 6th voyage to the Mediterranean, bound for the island of Lemnos to collect more casualties from the bloody Gallipoli campaign. She was filled with over 1,000 souls, not wealthy tourists, but a complement of dedicated medical staff doctors, orderlies, and 533 nurses, along with a seasoned crew. The explosion that tore through her starboard bow was catastrophic. The cause was a naval mine laid by the German submarine U-73. Despite her robust design, the damage was too severe. The explosion tore open multiple watertight compartments, and in a cruel twist of fate, a porthole on a lower deck had been left open by nurses airing out their wards, allowing water to flood in at an even greater rate. Captain Charles Bartlett immediately attempted to beach the ship on the nearby island of Key, but the flooding was too rapid. As the ship began to list, the crew initiated a remarkably orderly evacuation, a somber testament to the lessons learned from Titanic. The new gantry davits worked perfectly, launching lifeboats filled with people. Yet, tragedy struck when 2 lifeboats were launched prematurely and were sucked into the still-turning, massive propeller blades, which had not yet been shut down in the desperate attempt to reach land. 30 people lost their lives in that horrific moment. Just 55 minutes after the explosion, Britannic slipped beneath the waves, taking with her the hopes of a nation and a trove of advanced medical technology intended to save lives. For nearly 60 years, the exact location of the wreck remained a mystery until 1975, when the legendary ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau, following tips from local islanders, finally discovered her resting place. What he found was a time capsule of stunning preservation. Lying on her starboard side at a depth of 120 meters deeper than the Titanic, the cold, less saline waters of the Aegean have been far kinder to her steel hull. The lack of the iron-eating bacteria that has ravaged her North Atlantic sisters means Britannic is in a remarkable state of integrity. Expeditions to the site have revealed breathtaking details. The giant gantry davits still in place, the white and green paint still visible on her hull, and even the personal effects of those on board. The ship's grand staircase, the very image of Titanic's glory, is still there, though the water pressure shattered its glass dome, leaving a mound of glittering shards on the seabed nearby. But beyond the maritime archaeology, Britannic's wreck is a monument to a different kind of heroism. She represents the often overlooked courage of the medical personnel in wartime. This was a ship of healing, not war, a floating sanctuary that became a victim of the very conflict it sought to ameliorate. The stories of the nurses aboard who worked tirelessly to save lives and then faced their own mortality with incredible bravery during the sinking are etched into this underwater grave. Their spirit and the advanced medical equipment that now lies scattered in the holds tells a parallel story of human compassion amidst unparalleled destruction. Diving on Britannic is not just an exploration of a shipwreck. It is a pilgrimage to a site that forever binds a famous maritime disaster with the quiet, noble sacrifice of those who wear not a soldier's uniform, but a nurse's cap, a poignant reminder of the many different forms of bravery that are swallowed by the sea. And now, for our final enigmatic relic, we descend into a place where the very laws of physics seem to bend, creating a scene so surreal it feels like a portal to another world. Deep within the lush jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, hidden in a system of water-filled sinkholes known as cenotes, lies what might be the most visually disorienting phenomenon on our entire list. It's not a sunken city or a lost ship, but a river that flows underwater. This is Cenote Angelita, and to dive into its depths is to experience a dream. The journey begins in crystal-clear freshwater, where sunlight filters down from the jungle canopy above, illuminating ancient stalactites that hang from the cenote's ceiling like stone chandeliers. As you sink deeper, the light begins to fade, and around 90 feet down, the world suddenly turns upside down. A thick, milky layer of hydrogen sulfide gas, produced by the decomposition of organic matter, drifts like a blanket of clouds beneath you. And then you see it. Through the haze, the unmistakable silhouette of a river materializes. There's a defined riverbank, complete with the ghostly, leafless branches of submerged trees and a carpet of fallen leaves. It looks for all the world like a sunken forest landscape, a scene from a flooded world frozen in time. This breathtaking illusion is a spectacular triumph of chemistry and density, a natural magic trick performed by water itself. The Yucatan Peninsula is a vast slab of porous limestone, meaning it has no conventional rivers on the surface. All the water flows through this incredible underground aquifer system. In Cenote Angelita, heavier saltwater from the nearby Caribbean Sea has seeped through the rock and settled at the bottom of the sinkhole. The lighter freshwater from rain and land runoff rests on top. Between these two distinct layers exists a boundary called a Heracleion, where the fresh and salt water meet but do not immediately mix. It's at this boundary that the magic happens. The different densities of the water bend light in strange ways, creating a shimmering, distorted horizon line that looks exactly like the surface of a flowing river. The trees and leaves are simply organic debris that has settled on this dense, syrupy layer of saltwater, completing the mind-bending illusion of a terrestrial landscape. Diving through this environment is an experience that challenges all your senses. As you pass from the fresh water into the salt water layer, the visibility shifts instantly from crystal clear to a hazy, blurry dreamscape. The temperature can drop noticeably, adding to the otherworldly sensation. To hover above this underwater river and look down at its smoky, ethereal banks is to feel a profound sense of awe and disorientation, as if you're flying over a miniature planet. It's a powerful reminder that the ocean's mysteries aren't always about lost history or human artifacts. Sometimes they are about the incredible, ongoing artistry of the natural world. Its ability to sculpt not just stone, but water and light into forms that fire our imagination and deepen our wonder for this beautiful blue planet we call home. From ancient computers and lost cities to sunken ships and enigmatic carvings, These 25 relics are more than just artifacts. They are profound reminders that the ocean is the world's greatest and least explored museum. Each discovery we've explored, from the Antikythera Mechanism's precise gears to the silent, sprawling streets of Pavlopetri, challenges the very timelines and narratives we've written about our own past. They suggest that history is not a linear path of gradual progress, but a complex tapestry with missing threads, many of which are still waiting to be pulled from the deep. These finds force us to question what we think we know about human ingenuity, cultural connections, and the rise and fall of civilizations, proving that some of our most important stories are not recorded in books but preserved in the silent, watery dark. As sonar technology becomes more advanced, robotic submersibles more nimble, and imaging techniques more precise, our ability to peer into this abyss grows exponentially. The discoveries of the past century are likely just a prelude to what awaits in Earth's final frontier. Who can say what other incredible finds are resting just beyond the reach of our light? Perhaps another mechanism even more complex than the one found at Antikythera, or a sunken settlement that pushes the date of organized society even further back into the millennia. The ocean floor is a vast, uncharted library, and we have only just begun to read its first few shelves. Every new expedition carries the potential to uncover a relic that will once again rewrite our textbooks and redefine our place in history. Now we turn the question over to you. Which of these underwater mysteries captured your imagination the most? Was it the potential lost city off the coast of Cuba, the hauntingly preserved ghost ship of the Baltic, or the poignant story of the Britannic? Share your favorite in the comments below. We love reading your thoughts and theories. If you enjoyed this journey into the deep, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into history's greatest puzzles. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep